When we think of the greatest wartime leaders in history, names like Winston Churchill, George Patton, and even Napoleon come to mind. But what about Dwight D. Eisenhower? The man who orchestrated the D-Day invasion and helped shape the post-war world often gets overshadowed by the giants of history. But did you know that behind his calm demeanor and strategic genius lay a leadership style that revolutionized military command? Stick with me, because what you're about to learn will change how you see one of the most pivotal figures of the 20th century. Dwight D. Eisenhower. His name may not ring out with the same thunder as other war heroes, but let me tell you, this man's impact on the world was nothing short of extraordinary. What if I told you that Eisenhower wasn't just a brilliant general, but also a master of diplomacy, a genius in uniting diverse military forces, and a leader who knew how to navigate the complexities of war with an unprecedented level of grace? When Eisenhower was chosen to lead the Allied forces during World War II, many were surprised. He wasn't a battle-hardened war hero like George Patton or Bernard Montgomery. In fact, Eisenhower had spent much of his early career in quiet administrative roles, planning and strategizing rather than commanding troops in the field. But Eisenhower had something that his more famous counterparts lacked: the ability to unite people. In a time of extreme tension between the Allies, where British, American, and Canadian forces often had conflicting interests, Eisenhower had to play the role of a diplomat as much as a general. He navigated these differences with remarkable tact and was able to bring together a team of military leaders from all corners of the world. In fact, when the D-Day invasion of Normandy took place in 1944, Eisenhower's ability to coordinate an unprecedented operation involving thousands of troops from multiple countries was the key to success. The operation was massive, one of the largest amphibious assaults in history, and many feared it would fail. But Eisenhower kept his composure under immense pressure, delivering one of his most famous lines just before the invasion: "The eyes of the world are upon you." Eisenhower's leadership wasn't about taking the credit for victory. It was about inspiring those around him to perform their best. His greatest strength was his humility. While other generals wanted the spotlight, Eisenhower was content to stay behind the scenes, letting his commanders shine while keeping the mission on track. Eisenhower's brilliance wasn't just in strategy, it was in his ability to delegate. The success of the D-Day invasion and other major military campaigns like the Battle of the Bulge wasn't a product of one man's genius. It was the result of Eisenhower's uncanny ability to surround himself with the right people and trust them to execute the mission. Eisenhower knew that a good leader doesn't have to do everything themselves. He trusted his commanders like Patton, Montgomery, and Bradley, but more importantly, he listened to them. This gave him the ability to bring together different perspectives and form a more cohesive military strategy. By delegating authority, he empowered his team to make decisions and take ownership of their roles, which ultimately contributed to the success of Allied operations. But delegation wasn't just about assigning tasks, it was also about being decisive. Eisenhower knew when to step in, take control, and make difficult decisions. One example of this decisiveness was during the critical Battle of the Bulge in December 1944, where German forces launched a surprise offensive against the Allies. Eisenhower had to make the tough call to send reinforcements in a hurry to halt the German advance, and his decision turned the tide of the battle. While Eisenhower was a military strategist, what set him apart from many other wartime leaders was his moral compass. Throughout his career, he maintained a deep sense of responsibility, not just to win the war, but to ensure that the fight was just. As the war in Europe raged on, Eisenhower was tasked with overseeing the liberation of Nazi-occupied countries, and during this time he had to make decisions that went beyond the battlefield. He was deeply concerned about the treatment of civilians, the post-war rebuilding of Europe, and the moral implications of his decisions. One of the most powerful examples of this was his role in overseeing the liberation of the Nazi concentration camps. When Eisenhower's troops liberated the camps, he insisted that photographs be taken and that the world would bear witness to the horrors of the Holocaust. He knew that the world needed to see the true cost of the war, not just in terms of military losses, but in human suffering. Eisenhower's commitment to documenting the atrocities wasn't just about showing the world the horrors of the war. It was about ensuring that history wouldn't forget. He made sure to hold not only the Nazi regime accountable, but also to hold future generations responsible for ensuring such atrocities would never happen again. After World War II, Eisenhower transitioned into politics and became the 34th President of the United States. What's remarkable is that he carried the same leadership principles into his presidency that made him such a successful military leader. His time as a general made him deeply pragmatic, and as president, he was known for his calm and measured approach to the Cold War. During his presidency, Eisenhower faced critical moments, like the Korean War and the rise of the Soviet Union. But much like his time as Supreme Commander, he relied on consensus building and diplomacy. If you enjoyed this dive into history, don't forget to hit like, share the video with your friends, and subscribe for more stories about the leaders who changed the course of history. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.